So we saw that Sarva Adhishthanam Brahma Advaya. Okay? Until you know the Adhishthanam is non-dual Brahman, until then what will happen? What? Jagat will Satyam Bhati. Jagat will seem like it is reality. Right? How? Shuktika Rajatam Yatha. Right? Like how silver is mistaken for mother of pearl, shell. Similarly, what will happen is, until you know this Advaya Brahma, it would seem as though the world is absolutely real. So that is what he says. But the minute you come to Yavat, not Nayate. But the minute Brahman is known, then what? The whole world is seen as one non-dual. So this is why when you see everything that is here is non-dual Brahman, and if you really understand that, then the question why this world will not arise. Yes, there is the appearance of the world. Yes, it is there. It's not totally untrue either, but ultimately it is all that is here is one non-dual reality. Okay. Now the next verse. Hey, anybody wanted to do the summary? Sorry, I forgot. Who wants to apply all the technique that Andre showed you yesterday? He gave you all the keys that he has, right, to produce this amazing summary that he produces every day. Okay, everybody is overwhelmed by the wedding, so nobody wants to attend summary. So then
I'm not prepared, but I can say.
Okay, great. Please.
I can make an effort.
Sure, please do.
So you have to use your mind, which is pramana, which is a means of knowledge to get awareness. So we have this faculty.
What mind has to use?
You have to use your mind.
Yes.
You have to use your mind, which is the means of knowledge.
Mind is not a means of knowledge.
Which is pramana.
No, pramana is not mind. Otherwise, mind itself can figure it out. No?
So it is the place where we can
Very good.
we can express
It's a
our.
tool.
It's a tool that
It's
gets us.
a place where you can actually operate this pramana. Pramana is an independent pramana, which is Shabda pramana, which is the books, right?
So it's a place where we can
Process
the knowledge.
Yeah.
So we process this knowledge by using vritti jnana.
Excellent.
So this vritti is actually the thoughts that we have in our minds. What does this vritti do? This vritti vyapti is actually the thoughts that come in your mind,
As a
which
result
then
of listening to pramana.
Yes, the thought that come in your mind, which then objectifies it to show us something which is objectifiable, which is phala vyapti. So when a thought comes in your mind and then you can objectify it, which means vritti vyapti has become phala vyapti.
Okay.
These thoughts will constantly keep coming in your mind and objectifying it until such time that all the clouds are cleared from your mind and you've got ultimate clarity. You will not be able to see, and the last thought that comes at that time in your mind, which is called akhanda akara vritti, which is one thought that will come and not objectify it itself, which is actually awareness. Further, we learned that we are asking ourselves, does existence of forms create duality? We have two things to understand. One is dependent reality, and the other one is which is satya and mithya, actually. So what we see, for example, in a pot and a clay, says that they are both dependent. Pot is always dependent on the clay. Similarly, if you see even in our own selves, for example, it's an objective consciously we think about, and if we are actually dreaming, we see objects in our dreams and thoughts, but actually speaking, that is not reality. The Vaivasic reality is empirical reality, which is Vyavaharika, which everybody can see. But there is a Pratibhasika, which is a reality, which is a subjective reality, which we can only see. But both these realities for Vedanta are not realities. Actually, Paramarthika is the absolute reality. So we have to move from empirical to subjective to actually absolute reality.
The other order, from subjective to empirical to Paramarthika.
So now there are some other things that cloud our knowledge clouds our minds to get the ultimate knowledge. That is adhyasa, which is projection. Sometimes we actually have this avigya. Avigya is opposite of knowledge, that is vidya. So we have this, because of our avidya, we see adhyasa. We project something which is not it is, which leads to ignorance and takes us far from the reality. When we finally have understood and got the final block fitted in, as our example is called adhishthanam, after which there is no objectivity. That is the final building block of the universe.
No, there is no other final cause. No? This is a causeless cause.
This is a causeless cause, yes. So this is a causeless cause, yes. The final building block of the universe. In this, there is no objectifying. When we achieve all knowledge and all power, and when that is manifested, like it is manifested, final reality of all knowledge and all power is actually awareness, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman, which is what we are looking at.
Okay, very good. Very nice, very good, Sunena. Many things she brought together. And it's good. Please don't, see, this is wonderful. She is great. She comes from a Tuesday class. So she'll ask after 3 to someone, I didn't understand this, but she has thought about it. And then she is totally fearless. And then she'll say what she has to say. And then she tries, which is wonderful. The first step in life is that all these complexes that we have to get rid of them. All these feeling shy, oh, what will people think if I make a mistake? Oh my God, I want to keep this image of understanding everything. This is all fake. You don't need all this. Feeling threatened when the teacher corrects you. But wanting to show I understand everything. All one's own needs. All needs which are all talking, I want to. So, you have to become a simple human being who's able to, unless I expose myself, how will I be corrected? So, one thing I admire about her, I know her a little bit about her life also. She's totally fearless. She does what she wants. We're totally unconventional, but a lot of courage, a lot of character she has. Very good. Good, Sunena.
Thank you. So I spoke in my own words. I learned from yesterday's knowledge from Andre.
Okay. Upadane akhiladhare jaganti parameshware sargasthiti layan yanti buddhani iva pari. Who wants to read the translation? Yeah, good one.
In Parameshvara, that means Shiva, the material cause and support of everything, all these worlds rise, exist and dissolve like bubbles in the water of the ocean, are born, formed and gone.
Okay. So that means this Atma Bodha is not as easy as it sounds, right? It seems like all simple examples and all that. It's quite complex. Complex in the sense that behind each of these verses, there are a lot of very profound ideas. So now, yesterday we saw that when you look into, you start with anything in this universe, any object in the universe. In the example that we saw in the verse, it actually started not even with an empirical reality, it started with your imagination. What was your imagination? Of a shell, right? But actually it was silver, right? No, silver. Yeah, so I saw it as silver, but actually it was a shell. So any object you take, so that means initially I saw it as silver, which was my projected reality. But that itself was nothing but shell. And our objectivity ends here. We think that I'm totally objective if I see shell as a shell. But according to Vedanta, what this itself is, what as she said is, it's an empirical reality. It's not totally false, but it's not the final reality. So therefore, this itself, as we saw, it keeps going down, and it goes down till, if you use quantum physics, maybe till quarks. But after that, they don't know. So Vedanta walks in, and it says what? All of this, you will never find the final adhisthana of everything if you look at objects. So what is the final adhisthana? This is what we call pramana. So pramana means the mind by itself cannot figure it out. You need some independent means of knowledge. So what the mind has to do, it has to use that means of knowledge and process it so that it gets to what the reality is. Okay? So here in this case, what is a means of knowledge? We saw Shabda Pramana, words. But these are not just any words, these are the words which are coming from Shastra, words of Shastra. So that itself includes what? Shruti, Upanishads, Smriti, Bhagavad Gita, and then prakarana grantha. So Atma Bodha that we are studying is a prakarana grantha. So what, when we expose ourselves to this Shruti Pramana, they will say, actually, because it's not an object, but what is it? It is all knowledge and all power. This is very well defined. It's not some higher energy, it's some entity out there which is unfathomable. We don't use vague words. We give a very proper definition. Okay? So that means Sarvatyaha Sarva Shaktiman Ishvara. And suppose I told you that this is something which is from which this has come, it would remain a belief. Because how do you know? Right? Because you don't see it. But the good news is that at every other level of intervention, you will find this. Then it doesn't remain matter of belief. If it was only down below and you have no access through your perception and inference, you just will have to believe in what Shastra is saying. But because this all knowledge and all power is not just hidden in substratum, but it is something which is at every stage, every level of interaction, you will see all knowledge and all power. This is why when you see an object called shell, you can understand that, hey, so many things at different, the quarks have come together to become particles, particles have come together to become atoms, atoms have come together to become molecules, molecules have come together to become whatever they explained, minerals, right? To become this. At each level, there is a very, very intricate and precise organization. Because, why? Because these same atoms are organized differently and you will have yet another object. So that means, imagine the number of permutations and combinations and this whole varied universe. And not only each object is intelligently put together, but each object's connection to the other object. So that means it's all, right? My existence depends upon the trees, that depends upon the sun, depends upon the water. All that is also organized. So therefore, there is what we call, Surya uses this word, which is a beautiful word. He used from one of the Upanishads, or I don't know where did you, Vedic Indra's net.
It is there, Atharva Veda.
Atharva Veda. Okay. Indra's net means how do you, he has a pictorial presentation. So what, everything is connected to everything else through time, space, ages. And anything you look at, what you will find it, the knowledge and power, you will find it right now. You will not find it on your own because you can't objectify it. But when you use pramana, and when the pramana reveals, you can't miss it. Unless you are bent on what, not seeing what is. Right? So that means this is what we call all knowledge and all power. And the Shruti says one more thing. On our own, we can't even have access to what? Ultimately, it calls the final adhisthana to be Brahman. This also, on your own, you can't figure it out. This is why you need a means of knowledge. Right? So that means what? That the knowledge and power itself requires something even more fundamental. And what is that which is more fundamental to knowledge and power, which is awareness. Now suppose, again, same thing, right? Suppose it was down below, again it will remain a belief, right? It is something which is always going to be inaccessible. But not only this, all knowledge and all power is available right now, here, but even this awareness is available right here. That's why it's not just some model that we are creating and nothing like that. It is re-seeing reality with the chakshu of Shastra. So when we use the prakriya, drik, drishya, viveka, what did we come to? Awareness. Awareness is not something which is you have to use your brain and then figure it out and all that. It's already present. But why is it not known? Because through the clouds it is all hidden. So what is the job of Shastra? To reveal it. And what is the function of the mind? To remove the clouds so that what is already there is not missed by you. So that is what we call this whole pramana operation. So not only all knowledge and all power is available, but even the awareness is available. So that means what? When we look at the world, we only look at the surface, the objects, that's all. What Shruti does is, it shows us more fundamental reality. All these objects that you see are nothing but manifestation of this intelligence. And where this intelligence is, its truth is, which is awareness. So therefore, every object that you look at in the universe, you will find both. Right now. Anything, you take anything, you will find. So what Shruti does is, it makes us see the whole picture. Yesterday, it was interesting what Anne was telling me, and it is very interesting. So that the whole means you don't miss any part. So what is the example I gave? I gave the example that when Vedanta makes you see what, there is a glass, And the negative thinking is what? It is half empty because you are focusing on this part. And the positive thinking is it's half full. Who is a Vedantin? So it's not here you're seeing either half or half full. You're seeing the whole. Right. So that means the total picture is that it is half full and half empty. So we all operate from here. What does Vedanta make us see? Not negate this. Please don't think. Your Advaita cannot come by negating this. It makes you see these forms, but it adds these two realities which we miss. And when we add these two realities, we have the whole picture. You understand? So we see, we don't deny forms, but we see two more fundamental realities which actually support the forms, which otherwise you can't see with your eyes. So it actually completes our vision of reality. And when you have a complete picture of the reality, the way you operate in the world can never be the same as when you have the partial vision of reality. So, yes.
I need 100% clarity on this, please. So, all knowledge, all power pervades all things, and it is observable everywhere. And then the second statement was, but it's pervaded by awareness, so it is in awareness. Now, what's the logic for that?
So that's exactly the same thing. So that means, let's take here, right? So there are three things. When I look at here, there is a form, right? There is a form. Then I cannot deny the fact that there is an intelligence which puts together my neurons and all that, right? So that means there is an intelligence which puts together my digestive system, which puts together everything. Then, as I told you, when you do Drik Drishya Viveka, that this is an object, then what is a subject? This is an object, what is a subject? You also find awareness. So you find three things right now. Do you understand? You find form, you find intelligence, and you find awareness. But you have to put it in the right order.
How do you find awareness?
Do you understand? So you need to put it in right order. What is where? In which sequence? So what does Vedanta do? It makes you understand the fact what is dependent on what. What is the most fundamental reality? That is the awareness. Then what is the second most fundamental reality? All knowledge and all power. And then from there the form. It puts it in order.
I mean, we say Adhisthana, that is
Adhisthana
Ishvara.
is it both, right? So suppose you look at these forms, from one standpoint you can say Adhisthana is all knowledge and all power, but then it itself has its own Adhisthana, which is awareness. So what is the order? You find three things, but what is the order? That is what, because they are arranged in Satya-Mithya relationship. One is a dependent reality and the other one is independent reality with reference to that dependent reality. You understand? So with reference to these forms, the forms cannot exist without the intelligence. But the intelligence itself cannot exist without awareness. So you find all three, but it puts it in order. So that's how you come to the final Adhisthana. What is the final Adhisthana? Awareness. You understand that? Okay. Just 1 minute. You had question?
No, it's
Yeah. So please, when I'm explaining something very important, try to let me finish my idea, because what will happen is, hopefully your question will be answered, right? Because before I explain the whole thing, if you just interject, I haven't yet completed my idea. So then what happens is that it's actually a little bit, so this was good. He asked me after that what are the relationships, and that was very good. Okay. Somebody else, Stefan.
Is it true to say then Ishvara is more real than objects?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? There is no doubt about it. So that means, sorry? Yeah, of course, right? So that means, what does it mean? Satya-mithya relationship is what? One is independent and one is dependent, right? And it's not like one thing is Satyam and everything else is mithya. At each level, what was Satyam now becomes mithya. What was Satyam now becomes mithya. What was with reference to this, as I explained to you yesterday, with reference to the thing above, it is Satyam. So with reference to pot, clay is Satyam. But with reference to atoms, clay becomes mithya. So please don't think that everything, so that means there is a kind of a relationship. So if you look at like that, then Ishvara and Brahman, so with reference to the whole world, Ishvara is definitely more Satyam. You can't have objects without the presence of intelligence, but the intelligence doesn't require objects, right? So in that sense, you can say that.
Now, what I understood is the Satya Mithya relationship comes all the way to the last observable object, which is the quad at this point in time.
Yes.
But the move from quad to intelligence cannot happen to the Druk-Drishya paradigm, because you're not seeing, but it comes to the Shabda Pramana paradigm.
Yes. Super.
Now the question is which comprises Shruti, Smriti and Prakarana grantha comprises this Shabda Pramana. Now that's something which we need to really internalize as opposed to logically put together.
So that means internalize in the sense that, right, because why? Because they are revealing reality. They are not creating a concept, right? It's not some intellectual modeling,
right?
They are showing you what is. So this is why even that Drishya Prakriya is not on your own. You are doing it with Shastra as a pramana. You understand? On your own you can't do this, and even if you do it, you won't actually arrive at it. Because we all stop at mind. And suppose somebody just loosely tells you, right, that oh, you are this awareness. As I told you, almost everybody within the mind, they create a division. One becomes as though the seer and the other one becomes the observer. So that means for both this, to know Ishvara you need pramana. To know the real nature of Atma as Brahman, also you need pramana. So that means this Drik Drishya Viveka is not something that you are doing on your own. It is with Shruti, pramana. Both require Shruti. Yeah, and the respective relationship between objects, the all knowledge and awareness, which order does it belong to? The whole thing is pramana operation. Yeah?
We will also see then how you can see in, let's say, an insentient object also Brahman. In all knowledge you can see, but how do you see Brahman? So in the body we see through the Drishya, but how about like the bottle?
Yeah, so this is something which is very easy. See, suppose now it's a good question, and this is something that everybody, there is a kind of a conclusion that we make that the awareness is only in sentient beings. And the awareness is not in rock, in the sun, because these are what we call insentient. This is one of the reasons why bringing Ishvara is critical. Right? Why? Because here which example did I take? Did I take a human being? This is an insentient example I have taken. Do you understand? The shell doesn't get up and say, I'm tired of sitting on the beach, let me go out and look what's going on in this classroom. Right? So that means the example is that of a shell which is an inert being. The problem is we think inert beings are just inert beings, and what we miss is all knowledge and all power. Even the inert things are coming from knowledge and power. So therefore, the knowledge and power has its adhisthana called awareness, because knowledge cannot exist without awareness.
So is awareness a realization then?
Exactly. So that means realization in the sense that when you use this pramana, and if your buddhi catches the meanings exactly as they are, we saw vritti jnana, right? That is what we call realization. Means you are a wise person because now you have understood the reality exactly as Shastra is revealing it to be. And it is no longer Shastra's vision that you are buying, it becomes your vision. Right? That is what we use loosely as realization. But actually it is just understanding things exactly as they are. Yeah, this is one. Okay?
Intelligence cannot exist without awareness. Can you show an example
Sorry?
of that? Intelligence cannot exist.
So can you think of any intelligence? What is, suppose your intelligence, your ability to think? Right now, so can you think about something without awareness? What is the most fundamental thing? It's impossible. Without awareness, there is no thought. What is intelligence? What is intelligence? Intelligence is the capacity, your cognitive capacity is a little sharp. What does it mean? When somebody is talk to you, your buddhi is able to process it accurately. That is, and follow the logics. This is called intelligence, right? Can you do the whole operation without the presence of awareness? It's not possible. So this is why any intelligence, if it is my little intelligence, it requires awareness. But if it is all intelligence, which is all knowledge, Ishvara, that also requires awareness. That's why it is the most fundamental.
We try to say without awareness there's no trick and no trisha, there's no seer, nothing to be seen.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. This is the final, if you do this is exactly what I did. Drik, drishya, viveka, when we did, what is the final druk? We came to awareness, which is the causeless cause, right? You can't go further. So that is, yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, now let's move forward. Now the next question. Yes.
I don't understand. For example, if you have stone, does it have awareness or no? According to this,
Okay, so yeah. So unfortunately, what has happened is, so there is yet another prakriya. So what Susan is asking is, if awareness is everywhere, let me raise a question. If awareness is everywhere, why some things are sentient and some things are insentient, right? I can talk, but a rock is not able to do that, right? So this is what we call sentient, and rock is what we call insentient. So what is the difference? If all intelligence, please, this is a good question. If all knowledge and all power is present in both, like I showed you, and awareness is present in both, why one thing becomes sentient and the other thing becomes insentient? Okay? So what accounts for this is what we call presence and absence of sukshma sharira. This is why when you were asking yesterday, it's a totally different thing. It's not about physicality and making it. Sukshma sharira is a totally different idea altogether. What is sukshma sharira? There is something in this all sentient being where they not only they have like senses, like what senses? Eyes, ears, right? Nose. But those senses which are in the eyes, they have sight. And that sight is what we call subtle. You can't see it. You can see my physical eye, but you can't see my sight. You can see my physical nose, but you can't see how much I can smell. Okay. So this is why we call it sukshma sharira, the subtle body. What is the function of subtle body? So I think it will come. I will not go into it because the verses are coming. The verses are coming. Basically, what it means is it makes the body alive and it makes it function. So that means what happens after so-called death? The physical body has remained exactly as it was, but its capacity to interact with the world is gone. What has happened? Physically you don't see anything coming and going. What has gone is subtle body. After the subtle body has left, the physical body is just inert objects, like any other inert object, unable to transact with the universe. So therefore, this by definition cannot be seen. At the same time, it is there. So this is what we call subtle body, right? So that means this accounts for this difference, but for both of them, this remains the same. Yeah?
See, it's a very good question if I can add one thing. Because look again at your question. If there is awareness in everything, why are some things sentient or non-sentient? In your understanding, when you ask this question of awareness, there was an element of what? Mind, or something subtle, right? Whereas, if you understand clearly the difference between awareness and what is subtle, or which makes something alive, or makes something able to think, it's totally different thing. So here also, in your understanding, you're imputing a characteristic of the mind to awareness. You're getting that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. If you didn't understand, forget. But what he's saying is right. Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you said it's only through Shabda Pramana that we can get everything. Otherwise we get caught in the mind and it can't solve the problem. So the Shabda Pramana was given to us by
Ishvara. See, this is a representation, right? And I just keep telling you, this knowledge you are caught. So you need, the whole Gita class was about what? You need Ishvara. Who will give you the knowledge? Who has knowledge? So what, the only place which is a source of all is what? All knowledge. So that's why the whole Shabda Pramana comes from Ishvara. This is why you can't skip Ishvara and go to final reality. We just saw that in the evening class.
But those who wrote it, they got
So
the
that
clarity.
means, yeah, okay, so that's a very good question. So knowledge is always there, and what did I say? Ishvara is in form of potentiality. What is potentiality? Potentiality is a fact which is already there, which is part of this all knowledge and all power, which is manifestation of the universe. Somebody is given the potential to collapse it. Right? And after that individual collapses it, what happens? That person can pass it on. So this is how. So, and this is not only for Vedanta, it is for every knowledge. What does it mean? For every knowledge there are rishis, people who first discovered something, right? Newton was the first one who, gravity was always there. It is not like he created gravity, but he was the first one who discovered the law of gravity. And what did he do then? He passed it on, right? So therefore, in everything, in psychology, there is a rishi. Who is the rishi of psychology? Different schools will have the first one who started, who got it. What? Freud and I don't know who. Jung. They are all rishis. Our Swamiji was so broad-minded. He said they were all rishis. What is a rishi? The one who first accesses something which is already there through one's intellect. Now, how do you, so I can claim I'm a rishi and I can make any statement, right? I can say I'm a rishi. I saw it last night, so therefore. Right?
It dawned upon me.
Yeah, exactly. So therefore, what decides that whether it is a valid means of knowledge or not is whether it can be contradicted or not. Otherwise, what? Anybody will call himself or herself a rishi and you have to just follow, and that's not how it is. The test of any knowledge is its non-contradictability. This is why the whole methodology of Vedanta involves use of logic. In itself, logic cannot take you to what Vedanta is taking you to, but if what Vedanta is saying is right, then it cannot be contradicted. That is a relationship. This is why the use of logic is extensive. Because that's what gives strength to what Vedanta is saying. This is why a scientist can be listening to Vedanta and he has actually no logic to contradict what Vedanta is saying. And in fact, the scientist knows that through my own logic, I can't reach there. And they know they are stuck. We think that, oh, they all know. Of course, they are very intelligent. But by definition, they are stuck. Because their means of knowledge is, by definition, only what? Perception and about perception-based inference. And they are very clear about that. So this is why a valid means of knowledge has 2 or 3 definitions. I don't want to go into it because it's like knowledge within knowledge within knowledge. It will become endless. So I will stop there. Okay?
I had a completely different question. In the visual out there, like, at the very top you have Sadashiva Sambharama.
Yes.
Is that considered to be, a pictorial representation of Ishvara, or was there somebody who actually put together the knowledge?
It's a pictorial representation of Ishvara.
Shankaracharya is considered to be the first
link. In fact, he was not the first Rishi. In fact, he is considered, the Rishis are, these 4. In the pictorial representation, do you see these 3 or 4 people who are sitting? They are the Rishis.
Okay.
And so this is why we have Sadashiva Samarambha, Shankaracharya Madhyama. He's in the middle, not the first one. Asmadacharya Paryanta, up to my present teacher, Vande Guru Parampara. Right? So the Adi Shankaracharya is not the author of Advaita. This is a kind of this is a tradition which is coming, because Advaita is not a tradition, it's a reality.
He's a prominent link in the lineage.
He's a very...
Because how much he has written extensively, commentaries and so on. Then it's one of the shining links in the But they were teachers, he had himself teachers, and even grand teachers, and he mentioned his names. And some of their writing are also available to us.
But there can be no authorship for any knowledge, actually.
Excellent.
Maybe somebody who put it in words or this.
So this is exactly. So all knowledge and the all power is already the universe came with all the physics knowledge, biology knowledge, chemistry knowledge. It all came. The body was already put together. Not that somebody sat and put it together. So that means, as I said, in pure research, what do the scientists do? They just dedicate their life to knowing what is. Years ago, there was a beautiful play about Albert Einstein in Bombay, Prithvi Theatre. So it's a brilliant play. Nasruddin Shah was playing it. And it was just mind-boggling. So there is one scene, right? So Albert Einstein, it was one character in the whole play, right? So there was one thing that he was coming home, and he was talking to himself that today I saw President Roosevelt? I don't know. Who was the President of United States during Second World War? Roosevelt, right? Yeah, Roosevelt. So he said, today I met President Roosevelt, and now because Israel was formed after the Second World War, so that to give a permanent home to Jews, and President Roosevelt offered Albert Einstein to be the first president of Israel. And he comes home and he says, today President Roosevelt asked me if I wanted to become the first president of this newly formed state called Israel. He says, no, but my mind is just so intrigued by this whole universe and the wonder that this universe is. And I want to dedicate my life to just understanding the big universe out there. Who would do a mundane thing like running a state? Mind. Rishis. are not ordinary people. They are extraordinary human beings. Whole dedication is, there is no, I'm so bright and I'm a genius and I'm this. It's just the beauty and the wonder of the universe and the vastness of the universe. And what do I want to do? I want to understand it. So that is the kind of a person, pure research. But he's looking into Ishvara. He doesn't say that I'm looking into Ishvara, but he is looking at Ishvara, what, with grand design and with wonder. And what is his conclusion at the end? God doesn't play game of dice. What does it mean? He sees with incredibly intelligence in this universe. His mind is able to capture it. When we look at the universe, it only seems chaotic. But with his eyes, he sees Ishvara in his own way. So this is how it is. Understand? So that means that the Ishvara has already put together the universe. The more sophisticated your mind becomes, you go beyond your first impressions, the surface, and you begin to see what the real universe is. And it's a wonder. Any genius in any field is like that. So a friend of mine is a painter, and somebody gave her the book by Leonardo da Vinci. And what is the book about? Painting. So she thought that he will be teaching, how to draw, how to do things, so she said the whole book was about Leonardo da Vinci looking at the geometric formations within the tiniest things and the big things and seeing the wonder, the proportions. You take a leaf and you study the leaf and how things are put together. These are not ordinary human beings. They are all rishis. So this is why Ishvara has already made a leaf what it is. But we look at the leaf and it doesn't do anything to us. We just kind of pluck it mindlessly, throw it like that. It all depends. Ishvara has made the universe is a wonder. We look at it with our partial vision of things and we don't see what is. So this is why every knowledge ultimately comes from Ishvara. What do? We remove our ignorance. Now, this is the most fundamental ignorance to remove because it solves the whole puzzle that is the universe. The most fundamental. You can't get more fundamental than this. So, now, did I answer your question? Yeah, okay.
There's a sentence I've heard which captures what you're saying. Scientists can figure out how things work, but they can never figure out why the things are the way they are.
Absolutely, and this is why absolutely, this is a good observation that you're making. The scientist, if you're really a thinking person, suppose you find, right, that the earth is globe. You don't ask the question, why is it not flat? If it was flat, you would have asked, why is it not globe? It is endless. It's silly question. You have to understand the silliness of this question. If it is like this, you can always say, but why like this? Why did Ishvara? If it was something else, you would have said, why not this? You have to understand what is. whole pursuit is the knowledge of what is. One hand, that is creation. On the other hand, that is Brahman. All that is here is one, which is not undergone any change to become the whole thing. So where is this question, why? This is how it is. If you really understand that, the question disappears. Very good. That is a good observation.
So we are talking about Ishvara, so is there any reason why here it's particularly mentioned as Shiva?
Okay, yeah, okay, that's good. So that I keep telling you that, imagine if the whole Upanishad, whether you take Chandogya Upanishad or you take Mundaka Upanishad or Mandukya Upanishad, they keep using only one word, Atma, Brahman. It will become extremely boring. You have this, that is the whole creativity of this human mind. You have to, if each class was identical, you will get bored. I'm talking about the same thing. How many times have you come?
Millions?
To my classes. How many retreats you come?
I think this is the fifth.
Fifth one. Suppose I keep, because I'm basically teaching the same thing. Every time I have exactly the same methodology, exactly the same words, exactly the same thing. What will happen? Second class and you'll start sleeping. Ah yeah, this I've heard a million times. The whole creativity is what, and this is the geniusness. How these different Upanishads using different vocabulary, different prakriyas, taking it from so many different angles and they lead you to the same reality. Brilliant. That is, and no matter which way you look at the world, you start with yourself, you start with the universe, you start with the cause, you start with anything, or your search for meaning in life, it all ends up there. That is brilliant. So therefore, there is this variety. As I told you, that ultimately what Shiva is, who is not some other entity. What is Shiva? That intelligence seen from that given standpoint, right? So either we say that which is a destroyer, or the second meaning of Shiva is Sham Karoti iti Shiva, that which is auspicious for you. So now, there's some expressions get poetic, right? Suppose you say all knowledge and all power all the time. Dry, boring. Sham Karoti iti Shiva, that which will bless me, that which is auspicious for me.
And that which blesses because it's supporting the whole universe. See, the context here is this, right? And then in fact in the next verse he will change. He will say Vishnu. Really? This is the next verse.
So this is why they don't want your buddhi to be stuck. Right? And so that means, see, you have to understand the whole. Whole means you can't exclude things and you can't be like this. That means your mind's ability to reconcile everything and come back to the same vision. What will it do? It will give depth to your vision. Right? And the malleability of the mind. So you can't say, the Swamiji used to always make fun. So some people ask, Swamiji, why in this is called Atma and in this Upanishad is called Brahman? Atma is Brahman. That is what the teacher has to make you see. This is the richness, right? In French, you don't, how many synonyms you have? One word has approximately how many synonyms?
Many, I guess.
That is what we call, that's why we call it rich language. Rich language. So many ideas. One idea you can present in so many different ways. So I'm always amazed because this, at least the way I speak, it's all very direct. And sometimes I hear you guys speaking in French and I'm like, wow, this is some literature which is like moving and beautiful ideas and beautiful words and beautiful connections, and I'm like, wow, it's a skill. It's a sophisticated mind which is able to present ideas, not just in linear ways. Wonderful. So this is what? I don't know about German, I don't understand it.
The French are special.
So this is what. Now, let's look at the next verse. Now, I have said Apadana. Okay, now, what we need to do is Upadana Karana. So now, this all knowledge and all power, we zoom in a little bit more in the next verse. Sorry? What is the time?
No,
It's
no,
11?
yeah, the question is that, yeah.
Sorry?
The question was, because see, we are disoriented. All wedding and so on. The class ends and
So what time is the class ending? Now?
whenever.
Your husband said soon.
So I have to follow my husband because our hearts are supposed to meet.
I thought like this.
What about maybe a break and then keep going?
Yes. Okay.
Because now
So we'll take a break. Okay. Yeah, because this is a big thing. There's a little big topic which will include both Upadana Karanam and Maya. So we will take a break.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.